Dan Harris. This time on Beliefs, what is one of the world's most famous self-help gurus doing diving into the raging debate over Islam? That story in a minute, but first, something of a personal story. This summer, during my annual summer vacation, I did something supremely counterintuitive, for me at least. I went on a meditation retreat. People who know me well and know that I have a deep aversion to all things touchy-feely, as well as an allergy to anything that involves sitting still for a long period of time, were very surprised. It turned out to be one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. And so I recently sat down with the guy who led the retreat. The retreat took place here at the Spirit Rock Meditation Center, about 30 miles outside of San Francisco. And this was the man running the show, Joseph Goldstein, considered a rock star in the world of Buddhism. Most people think 9 days of all vegetarian food, no talking, and 6 hours a day of silent meditation sounds like
hell.
Yes, or torture, or torture in hell. How do you justify proposing this idea to people?
Most people are quite apprehensive about the idea of silence, because we don't have a lot of silence in our lives. And it's just an experience people don't have. For almost everybody, silence is the thing they most appreciate by the end because it's so delightful. It's so peaceful to just settle into oneself and not to have to present oneself to others. And we just settle in to a stillness that is so refreshing and so delightful. So even though the apprehension is there in the beginning, it's what people most enjoy. The actual meditation practice is more difficult than the silence.
Much more difficult.
Exactly.
I didn't have any trouble with the silence at all.
Yeah.
Everybody I knew latched on to that, but what I was worried about going in was sitting still.
Yes.
For these periods of silent meditation. And I was right. That was exactly what became the most difficult thing.
Right. And it is hard because for most people who haven't done the practice before, first there's just getting used to some posture, but just to sit still for 45 minutes is its own challenge in the beginning.
The day starts at 5:30 in the morning, and it contains a series of meditation sittings, usually about 45 minutes long, walking meditation periods, meals, and breaks. And here are the basic instructions for meditation. 1, sit comfortably. 2, pay attention to your breathing. And 3, when your mind wanders, just come back to the breath.
It's an exercise in awareness. Can I feel the breath coming in? Can I feel it going out? So it's completely simple.
You're using it as a tool to bring you into the here and now.
Exactly, exactly. And what's so fascinating is something, even with an object as simple as the breath, as natural, as normal. We're aware of 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. And then we notice the mind hops on these trains of association, of thought. We have no idea we've hopped on this train. We have no idea where the train is going. And then a minute or 5 minutes or 15 minutes later, we wake up from being lost. Oh, I've been thinking. And all that time we've been lost in our own mind worlds. And so the idea in meditation is to wake up a little earlier.
So the act of meditation is not, as many people think, floating off into some feeling of cosmic oneness per se.
Correct.
The act of meditation is coming back.
Yes.
Catching yourself and coming back. That's meditating.
Yes.
You're not going to stop thinking. You're just going to continually come back to trying to focus on whatever it is you're trying to focus on, in this case, the breath. The first couple of days were, for me, excruciatingly difficult. So I spoke to you a couple times during this retreat, and I felt for the first 3 or 4 days like somebody who's being dragged behind a motorboat by his head. I mean, just awful. I'm being honest here. And I got desperate, and I went to one of the, you were unavailable, and I went to one of the teachers named Spring.
Right.
I said, Spring, I'm dying here. I'm not getting anywhere. I think those were my words. And she said, parenthetically, she didn't say the word, but I'm going to insert it, idiot, you're not supposed to get anywhere. You're not, that's not the goal. Right. You're supposed to just see what happens. And so I then did the next session of meditation out on the balcony in one of the dorms. I didn't go in the room because it was getting too overheated for me. I just took a chair out on the balcony. And And then I sat down, I tried it again, and it was as if after 3 or 4 days of being dragged by a motorboat, I got up on water skis.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could see everything. Everything that's happening in your brain, you see.
Yes. 3 days is in bed.
Really?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
No, it's exactly that, because in the beginning, people hear the instructions, especially beginners who aren't familiar with the practice, and it's awkward. It's like learning anything. It's like learning to ski or to play a musical instrument. And, as you're first learning it, it's awkward, and you hit the wrong notes, and it doesn't go well. But at a certain point, it's like you learn a skill, and the mind settled down. It relaxed. And that's when the practice gets a lot more joyous.
It was the best high I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
Except for the hangovers up front.
Exactly. So it's better that way.
The reason this is called insight meditation is that you're supposed to eventually have an insight about something called impermanence. Now let's go to the insight, because I think your argument is, and the argument that Buddhists have been making for 2,500 years, is that once you have this vision of the way your mind is working, the rapidity, you can have an insight. What is that insight?
There are lots of insights. And it's not only about the mind, it's also about the nature of the body. And one of the fundamental ones, which sounds so obvious, it's the seeing in a very direct and immediate way the impermanent, momentary nature of phenomena.
Wait, say that in English. Basically, you're saying
things change.
Everything changes.
Right.
Constantly.
Right. And so if we went out onto the street of New York and just stopped people and said, do things change? Everybody would say yes. I mean, so this isn't an esoteric truth, but we don't live our lives integrating that understanding, because if we really did, we wouldn't get attached to things. We wouldn't grasp at things. Because when you grasp at or attached to that which in its nature changes, you suffer. If you're attached to a full head of hair, you're not going to feel too good when you look in the mirror one day. Because things are changing, and it's their nature to change. It's not a mistake. It's the law of things. But somehow we are addicted to what we like and how we want things to be, and so we get attached, we hold on, and then when they change, we're in distress of one kind or another.
But how do you translate that insight into your daily life? You've presumably had this insight into the impermanent nature of everything a million times, because you meditate all the time. Does that mean that when you start to lose your hair, or when somebody you love dies, or when your favorite baseball team starts to not be so good anymore, that you don't suffer?
I would say that the amount of suffering in those situations has diminished enormously. It's not that I or we don't have different feelings about these things happening in the moment. So we might feel sad or distressed or whatever, but we don't so identify with those feelings. We don't get so caught up and attached to those feelings, and it doesn't become a huge drama,
But so I get it. Again, I understand how you can understand this intellectually. And I'm speaking as a meditator here, a novice meditator.
Yeah.
But to actually integrate this wisdom into your daily life is not an easy thing to do.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's not easy. That's why it's called practice.
People ask me if I dare tell them that I meditate, if I'm not worried that they're going to think I've gone soft. So is your life better? And I like to say it's about 10% better.
10% is good for beginning a meditation practice. 10% is huge.
Oh yeah, no,
that's a good. I mean, if you got 10% on your money,
yes, it's a good return on investment. Absolutely,
it's a good return, and it gets even more. The return gets more the more you do.
My thanks to Joseph Goldstein. Coming up next, why is Deepak Chopra, better known for writing books about the mysteries of the cosmos, now involved in America's raging debate over Islam?